everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about Disney in the summertime. Types of things that you can do to prepare yourself, things that you can bring with you to help combat the heat, and also things that you can do during the day to really help with this heat. Because let's face it, it gets hot in Disney World in the summertime. Some of you who are already there or are planning to go within the next week, you're already going to be feeling that heat. But as the months go on into the summer, it's just going to intensify and get even worse. So this video is for those of you who are traveling to Disney within the next couple of months and really need to be prepared for the type of heat that you are going to endure. So before we start, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Allison, and here at my channel, I like to make content about travel tips for families and some Disney World content because I absolutely love Disney World. I'm a Disney World nut, and just vlogs from our little trips and things that we like to do just to kind of maybe give you some ideas on things that you can do for your trips with your family. So I hope you subscribe and stick around, and let's get into the video. So first things first, let's talk about the gear that you can bring with you to make your Disney trip so much better in the summer. Now, when I was a kid and was growing up, we went to Disney World every year. And do you want to know what time of year we went? Late August. I don't know why we went late August. I know why we went in the summer. It was because my mom was a teacher. My parents didn't want to take us out of school, so summer was it. You know, there's other school breaks, but summer was it for us. That's when we went. We went summer. Why it was late August, I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to have a conversation with my parents about that. But back then, you know, I'm kind of aging myself now, but that was in the 90s, and they didn't have a lot of the type of things that they have now. Sure, they had little fans and things like that, but I feel like they've definitely improved on things that you can bring with you to make it much easier in the heat. So the first thing we're going to talk about are fans. Now, I'm sure you've seen lots of people with all different types of fans. They sell different fans at Disney, all different types. So I'm just going to share with you the ones that my family really enjoyed. Now, I'm going to be full of transparency here. I have not been to Disney with my own kids in the brunt of summer. We went late September, which still gets very hot, but it is not the brunt of summer. So these fans worked for us when we were there late summer. And that was, I mean, it got into the high 90s, 96, 97. It wasn't pushing over 100. The humidity was still there. You know, it's still hurricane season. The humidity was still there. So I think, you know, I might have generally a good idea of the types of fans that will work. Now, one thing that I don't have with me that I do recommend getting if you are going in the summer is a misting fan. We didn't feel we needed them when we went, and next time we're going, it's going to be December. So a misting fan, you know, my daughter wants one, so we might get one, but I do recommend a misting fan in the summer, at least one that you can kind of like pass around to everybody when they really need one. But these fans were lifesavers for us. So you're definitely going to want to get a stroller fan if you have, obviously if you have a stroller. Obviously, if you have a stroller, you're going to want a stroller fan. And honestly, I recommend getting 2 stroller fans, and this is my reason. One, you're going to put in the front for your child in the stroller, and this one is very cool because it can tilt. Do you see that? It can spin. So if you have it on here, you can kind of spin. It doesn't matter where it's connecting to the stroller. This top headpiece will turn to get it onto your child. But another reason why I think you should get this fan is to have on the handlebars of your stroller, so you pushing the stroller can get that airflow with being hands-free, being able to push the stroller. So that's what's great about these. And this one is also great too, because they are these spider ones that have the spider legs, but they can also go straight and stick out. So you could prop this onto a table, like if you're sitting down and you're eating lunch and you're outside, you can prop this on the table and have it blowing on you as you're eating. So this fan is really great. And all of these things that I'm going to show you right now, I'm going to have linked down below. So check them out, definitely. So those are the stroller fans. And again, you can get stroller misting fans. So even if you're, maybe the kid in your stroller doesn't want to have the misting action, but you could have this on the handlebars and have the mist blowing at you as you're pushing your stroller. So they do have the stroller versions of the misting fans. So I would highly recommend getting one of those if you're going during the summertime. So other fans that we really, really love are these little Mickey fans. These are surprisingly really strong, and they're also cute and fun, and my kids like to play with them. My 3-year-old likes to have them in the stroller, and what I really love about these is that they have this little tab on the back that I actually connect to my stroller with one of those like silicone stretchy little strings. So you can connect it here and then connect it to your stroller, so your child in the stroller can just play with it, and then you don't have to worry about them dropping it, because these are very light. So I can very easily see how this could just plop right off the stroller. So if you connect it, that's not going to happen. So I really love these fans. And another thing that I like about these ones, I'm gonna show you really quick, they light up, which is really cool to have at nighttime. So I can see, little kids in a stroller, thinking that that's really cool, having a light up fan at nighttime, when you're watching the fireworks. Because let's be honest, it still is very warm even when the sun goes down. So that would be kind of fun to have, are these little light up fans for your kiddos. But even I really like these fans. I think they really do a good job with the airflow. So I'm going to get into neck fans now. I see a lot of people wearing neck fans. We tried out neck fans on our last trip. We had these kinds for my husband and I, and then my daughter, who was 8 at the time, she had this kids one, which is flexible. Now, none of us really enjoyed the neck fan, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because for some people, this includes my family, having anything really touching you when you're hot makes it worse. Even if what is touching you is blowing air at your face, it almost just it felt kind of like heavy and like weighed down, and none of us really enjoyed having it on our necks. So we're not going to bring the neck fans next time. But like I said, we don't go during the summer. But I do think that if we were in the summer, and especially in that humidity, to have something on me like that, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like it. So I highly suggest the handheld fans. And even with these fans, even if you don't have a stroller, you can use one of those silicone straps and hook it to your bag. Whether you have a backpack or a crossbody, you can hook it to your bag and easily pull that up and just fan yourself whenever you need it. And they're also super thin enough to fit inside. Like I put this one in my crossbody bag, even though I have a stroller. I stick it in my crossbody bag and bring it with us when we're standing online, or if I don't have my stroller with me. It's so thin and light that I just take it with me wherever we go, and anybody who needs it can just use it while you're waiting in line, while you're waiting for food. So I really, really love these little fans. So the next item I'm going to talk about are cooling towels. So what we like to do with our cooling towels is we like to have a wet bag with us that we can keep our cooling towels in, because obviously they're going to be wet. So what my family like to do with the cooling towels is not necessarily have them draped around our necks the whole time, where you could do that. And aside from the neck fans, this is a little bit different because they're very light and they're cool and wet, you know, so what is touching your skin is cool and wet. But we really just use these just to kind of like cool our face down when we needed to. You know, we didn't really walk around with them on us. We definitely could have. And, you know, I do see a lot of people doing that. So that is definitely an option. But we really just kept them in the wet bag. And then whenever we were really hot, we would take them out and just kind of cool our faces down or our necks, wherever we really needed it. So that was what we used that for. And a tip on that, make sure you wet them before you leave the park, because it's going to be very hard to find a sink that gets cold enough in the parks to cool them down, because you really want to use cold water when you first wet them. They do stay wet for pretty much all day, but you are going to want to first wet them with very cold water. So I've found that bathrooms and stuff like that in the parks just don't have cold enough water. Their water just doesn't get cold enough to make the towel worth it. So that was the mistake we made the first time. So definitely get them in that cold water before you leave the park. So another way to cool yourself, and this one can actually be used in two functions, obviously, when you see it, is a UV umbrella. So this came in handy when we were at Disney Springs. And when you're in Disney Springs, there's not a lot of shade. And we wound up having to wait for our dining reservation, and we were out in the blazing sun. So this really came in handy just to give yourself some shade. And these come down small enough that you could put it in a backpack, in a crossbody bag, if you don't have a stroller with you, because sometimes, you know, if you're just going to go to Disney Springs for dinner, you might not bring your whole stroller. I do recommend bringing your stroller to Disney Springs just because it's huge. Sometimes you don't realize how big it is. Oh, I'm just going to dinner, but your dinner might be all the way over on the other side. So I do still recommend bringing your stroller to Disney Springs. But if you don't have it with you, these are small enough to fit in a bag. And obviously they can also be used for the rain. If you are bringing an umbrella with you, just remember to hold it out in front of you when you're going through security, or it will set off the alarm. If you have a stroller, you can put it down in your basket or on the seat so that the person checking your stroller can also check the umbrella. So that is a tip for you if you are bringing the umbrella. And I do highly recommend these. These really worked out great. Or even if you're standing in line, like I know, like Slinky Dog, the line is all outside. You know, if you're standing in a line that's outside, bring this with you just to give yourself that shade that you really need when you're just standing there. You know, that's when you're really feeling it, is when you're just standing there. So this is a great item to have in your bag. Now that we've talked about ways to cool yourself down from the sun, let's talk about when the sun goes away and we get those lovely summer rainstorms. Now, you're gonna get a rainstorm during the summer every day in the afternoon, no question. So be prepared for that. Be prepared. Have your ponchos, or if you want to use raincoats, have your raincoats. What we like to do is we like to have wet bags again, and we like to keep, you know, just kind of stuff our ponchos in here. We do travel with a stroller, so I do carry with me at all times a stroller rain cover. So that's what this is. That was in this bag. And what I actually really love about this rain cover is that, let me see if I can open this up without it being a crazy mess. It doesn't just drape over the stroller and that's it. It actually has this kind of like harder piece here, and you can unzip it like this. So you unzip it. So this part is over the canopy. And then what you can do is you can lift this part out so that your child has some fresh air all in here. Like, let's say like it's one of those rainstorms where it's on and off, on and off, on and off raining. You don't want to keep your kid in underneath this the whole time because it gets hot under there. I mean, it's humid, it will get hot under there. So with this one, you can keep this open and have this airflow. So it's almost all the way open. And then if it starts raining again, you just flip this over and zip it up. And these ones also have little airflows on the sides, which I really like. So that is definitely have a rain cover with you for your stroller. Now, one thing that some people tend to forget is, okay, they have their baby or their toddler and they know they're going to be in the stroller a lot, so they have a stroller cover for them. Don't forget a poncho or a raincoat for your baby or toddler, because they're not going to be in the stroller the entire time it's raining. At least I hope not. I hope you're still going to enjoy your day even when it's raining. So when you park your stroller and you're going to go into a restaurant or you're going to go to a ride, make sure your baby and toddler have rain coverage as well when you're ready to take them out of the stroller and into wherever you're going. Another tip is, if you're renting a stroller, one of the Disney strollers, because we rent a Disney stroller for my older daughter, she's 8. We rent a stroller for her, so we have 2 strollers. I didn't want to buy another another stroller cover just to use for those strollers. So what I do is I actually get another, like an extra cheap poncho and just kind of like put it on the seat of the stroller whenever we park it, so that when we come back to the stroller, if it's rained, the seat is not soaking wet and she can sit down and not be soaked. So that's what we do for those strollers. But obviously when you have your own stroller, you don't want the whole thing getting wet. You might have bags on it, things like that. So you really want to have a stroller cover to cover up all of the stroller to protect it from the rain. Let's move back into the sun now and talk about sunscreen. So obviously you're gonna wear sunscreen in the summertime, but we want to make sure we protect every parts of our body and do that very frequently and often. For me and my kids also, we do not like wearing hats. The hat just makes me more hot, having something on my head. I've even tried like visors, but just that strip that goes across my forehead, it just makes me sweat. So if you are like me and also my kids, you're gonna wanna get some kind of sunscreen for your head. If you have very light hair or you have very short hair, or even with a part, even if you have dark hair and you have a part, that part is susceptible to sun damage. So you're going to want to get something like this. This is Scalp and Hair Mist by Sunbum. It's SPF 30. So I will spray this, especially along my part, but wherever your hairline is. And I spray it all over my son's head. My son has very short hair, so we spray it all over his head. He's blonde, so it's very susceptible to sun damage. So this is really a great thing to have, especially in the summer when that sun is just extra hot. And now this is called Brush on Block. It is a powder mineral sunscreen that I use on all of our faces. Now, what I really like about this, especially in the summertime, is that it doesn't feel like anything is on your face. Because I know when I'm putting lotion, a sunscreen lotion on my face, or even the sprays, it just feels so icky and sticky, and especially when it's humid, and I just can't stand the feeling of it. So this one, even though you do have to reapply it a little bit more often, but I would rather reapply this more often and not deal with the feel of the cream or the spray, especially on my face. I put this on the kids too. It also makes it super easy to put on the kids because they don't really mind it like they do trying to lather a lotion into their face. They really don't mind the powder at all. So, even to do it more frequently. And again, it's a small item that you can easily fit in your bag when you're standing in line. It's a perfect time to do it. When you're standing in line waiting for a ride, you just quickly reapply. And then when you get back to your stroller, don't forget to reapply everywhere else too, whatever you're using. Because this isn't really to use on other parts, just because it's, it'd be hard to get everywhere. So it's really just for the face and the neck. But so don't forget to reapply right when you get back to your stroller as well, or wherever you're in your bag. Another thing that you really want to bring with you, really anytime you go to Disney, is moleskin padding or some blister band-aids. But I find that in the summertime, people might not be wanting to wear socks and shoes because they're hot. So they might be wanting to wear more like sandals or, shoes that might give you some blisters. So it's really a good idea to bring some moleskin or some blister band-aids to stop that from happening, because we all know, again, when you're sweaty, blisters tend to happen a little bit more when you are sweating. So, and on that note, talking about socks and sneakers and things like that, if you are the type of person that likes to wear socks with your shoes when you're in the parks, definitely bring an extra pair of socks with you. I mean, you are going during hurricane season. It's going to rain. There could be puddles from another rainstorm. Nobody likes to walk around in wet socks, especially when it's hot and humid. That's just asking for foot problems. Bring an extra pair of socks with you and bring a wet bag to put those wet socks in. Even if you don't get them soaked from rain or puddles, I mean, you could just want to switch out your socks because you're sweating. It's just another, who wants to walk around in sweaty socks, So bring an extra pair of socks, bring an extra pair of clothes even, because you might find yourself and your kids wanting to go into those water play areas and cool off from the heat. So definitely bring extra socks, clothes for your kids, or even for yourself. You might want to go in those wet areas too, to cool down from the heat. So even though, you'll probably dry off quickly because it's so hot, but you might just feel more comfortable in dry clothes, and your kids might feel more comfortable in dry clothes. So bringing a wet bag and some extra clothes is definitely a good idea. Next up, we're going to talk about hydration. Now, hydration is always important anytime, anywhere you are, but especially in Disney World, in the heat, you're walking around, you might not be thinking about it, you're trying to get to where you want to go, but it is so, so, so important to hydrate. And any way that you're going to do that is the best way. So if you want to have those water enhancer droplets that allow you to drink more water, do that. Try to find some sugar-free ones, because, adding extra sugar just kind of like, it just isn't good for hydration. But you're obviously going to want a water bottle. Now, personally, I like to bring my metal water bottles, and that's because it keeps your water cold. It keeps your water cold, and it keeps ice in there. It keeps it nice and refreshing and cold. But I also do understand that not a lot of people like to bring, big water bottles, especially if you don't have a stroller. Having it hanging, you could clip a carabiner or something onto your bag and have it hanging there. Some bags have cup holders on it, but especially when it's summertime, it can be so just miserable having a backpack on your back when you're dripping sweat. So I feel like anything that adds that much more weight to that backpack is just going to be miserable. So another option that you can do is you can bring one of these collapsible mugs. These things are really great. I use them for hot drinks and cold drinks. I use them on the plane. And the reason why I use them on the plane is because water bottles like this with the straw that pops up, it actually just did it. You're going to get that squirt effect because of the pressure of the plane. So what's great about these is they pack up so easily, so small into your bag. And then when you get through security, you can very easily open it up and have your drink. But now in the park, what makes these great is that they collapse down to here, so you have it in your bag. When you're thirsty, or any time that you are near a water station, you open up your cup, you get some ice, you put some ice in there. These expand super easy, right? I mean, this is a 16-ounce cup, and they even make one bigger size as well. So you put this on here like that so it doesn't collapse. You fill your cup with ice, you fill it with water, and you drink your water while you're on your way to your next adventure, wherever that is, whether that's a ride, whether that's you're going to wherever you're going, a show. You drink it on your way there, And then when you're done, you collapse it back down and you do you rinse and repeat. You repeat every time that you are near a water station or you're feeling thirsty. You really shouldn't wait until you're super thirsty, because that's telling you that it's too late now. You shouldn't feel that absolute thirst. You should be drinking enough that you don't feel that thirst. So anytime that you're near a quick service location or a water bottle refill area, fill up your cup and have a drink. But that is why I tend to like the metal water bottles, because you just keep your water in there and you can really just sip on it all the time, and then when you're done, you refill, and then you continue on. So personally, I like to have the metal water bottles, but I also do understand that they can be a nuisance. So having the collapsible cup is another great idea to get you hydrated. I did mention using water enhancers if you're the type of person that doesn't really like to drink a lot of water, and the water enhancer will make you drink more water. One thing that you can do is replace at least one of those with a liquid IV or equivalent. You need to get those electrolytes in, especially when you're at Disney walking around and doing all that stuff. Trust me, it's going to make you feel so much better. You'll dodge those headaches and those dizzy spells. Make one of those drinks a liquid IV drink. And that's another reason why I like my water bottle, is that I can put this in there, shake it up, and then that's my first drink of the day. I shake it up in the morning in the resort before we get to the park, and that's my first water bottle drink, is the liquid IV. So I kind of set myself up for success. I set myself up to be hydrated, and then the rest of the day I'm drinking water nonstop. Now they also make kid versions of these. My kids unfortunately don't like them, but if your kid is used to drinking like juices or flavored waters, they might like them. So it's a good idea for the kids to have these as well. So I tend to bring this with me no matter what time of year I'm going, but if you are going in a hotter time of the year and you are going to have all of those extra fans that maybe you wouldn't have at other times of the year, I do highly recommend bringing a USB charger, just so that you have your centralized place to plug in all of those extra things that you might not normally have with you. So this one takes like 10 USBs. So if you have all those fans, you have your Magic Bands, you have your phone, you have your, whatever you have with you, these really come in handy when you have all those fans that you need to charge. Now we're going to move on to a little bit of an uncomfortable topic, chafing. If you've never experienced chafing, thank goodness for you. Hopefully you don't ever experience it, but it can be brutal. Now, chafing can happen on any parts of your body, anytime your skin is rubbing together, especially if you're sweaty and hot. It can really turn into something not fun. So what we can do to combat that is to get some Body Glide. Now this can go anywhere. It's just like deodorant. It goes on just like deodorant, and you just put it on anywhere that your skin is going to rub together. If you're wearing shorts or dresses and they're short, you're gonna want to put it on your thighs. That is just one area that really can get it bad. Another area that I didn't really think about was any place that your underwear is kind of touching, touching your leg, or like that can rub. And coming from experience, unfortunately, that is one of the worst areas to get that problem. So I highly suggest using this all the time, every day. Even bring it with you to the park and reapply it, like halfway through the day, especially when you're there during the summer and it's hot and you're sweating. It's just more likely to happen in that situation. So don't let it happen to you. I feel like it's like an infomercial. Don't let it happen to you. Put this on before you go out, but really do that. Put it on before you go out. Even if it's never happened to you before, it could happen to you in Disney World. And then you have to continue going about your time with this problem, and it is not fun. So do yourself a favor and get this. Now, on the same topic, for my men out there, they do have a powder that you can put in areas that can get sweaty, and it's an anti-friction powder. It absorbs the sweat, and it just makes you a little bit more comfortable. Sweat happens, and it happens to everybody. So it just helps out in those situations. Okay, enough about chafing. Let's move on to something a little bit more fun. This is an item that I like to bring with me no matter what time of year we're going, but especially for summertime. I found these like 4th of July inspired glow sticks. These types are my favorite. Now we do bring those like tiny little string ones, just like the bands, just to kind of like wrap around the stroller or whatever you're doing. But these ones are really great. They last a really long time, and the kids just really like to have them when it's dark. And instead of buying those crazy expensive glow sticks or glow wands at the park, come prepared with these. Your kids are gonna love them. It's really so much fun to have glow sticks, but this is just something that we always bring with us. And I feel like for summertime especially, these would really do well with the kiddos. All right, so we talked about gear to keep you cool and prepared for the summertime, but what else can you really do to help combat the heat? So you're going to want some type of break in the middle of the day. So this is really dependent on what you and your family want to do, how old your kids are, can your kids make it a full day without a nap? If you are nappers, if your kids are nappers, if you want to take a nap, sometimes that heat really just makes everybody want to nap. You might find it easier to go back to your resort in the middle of the day, take a nap, get in your AC'd room, take a little bit of a break, and then head back. So this is kind of when I say things like going during the summer is a lot cheaper, but sometimes you wind up spending more money on other things. Like you might want to, instead of staying off site, you're going to want to stay on site, and maybe even in a deluxe resort to take advantage of those more indoor areas, like the big lobbies and, your room. You're closer to the parks in order to take those breaks. But even if you don't stay at a deluxe, sometimes going back to the resort midday really does wonders for especially small children if you want to stay the whole rest of the day or stay for the fireworks. Getting that break out of the heat and in some air conditioning can really do some wonders for everybody in your party. Now, if you don't want to do that, maybe thinking about how much time that's going to take out, the transfer, if you only have bus transportation or you drove and you have to get back to your car, that can sound kind of annoying. So another thing that you can do is plan on having a sit-down meal in a table service restaurant for your lunch. The reason for this is that you're in the AC. It's going to take a little bit longer than just a quick service lunch because you really want to have an extended period of time out of the sun in the AC, resting, calming down. So in the parks, obviously every park has sit-down meals, but if you are now Animal Kingdom is kind of different because it's not so close to other resorts. But if you're in Magic Kingdom, Epcot, or Hollywood Studios, what you can do is you can kind of take that break time to explore some of the deluxe resorts that are nearby. So if you're in Magic Kingdom, maybe you want to have, even if it's not a sit-down meal, if you are going to a resort, you could eat at their quick service and then kind of explore the resort a little bit to get out of the heat. So if you're in Magic Kingdom, you can go ahead and take the monorail to the Contemporary, go eat at Chef Mickey's or at the Polynesian. I personally absolutely love Captain Cook's quick service at the Polynesian. Those pulled pork nachos are probably one of my favorite things in the world. So, take a break. It doesn't have to be a sit-down meal. Maybe you don't have it in your budget to do a sit-down meal. So come out of Magic Kingdom, take the monorail to the Polynesian, eat at Captain Cook's, explore the resort a little bit, take the monorail, go explore Grand Floridian, just take like 2 or 3 hours out of your afternoon in the hottest part of the day, get out of the sun, and then go back to Magic Kingdom. If you have kids that are stroller nappers, walk them around the resort. It's going to be nice and cool in there. They might fall asleep in the stroller. Just kind of go explore. Even going onto the monorail, you can bring your stroller straight onto the monorail. So if they're sleeping, take a nice monorail ride, get out of the sun, get out of the heat. So that is my advice. If you're at Epcot or Hollywood Studios, you can go over to the boardwalk. You could even go on the Skyliner to the Riviera, and explore those resorts. But it is definitely a highly suggested thing to take a few hours out of the middle of the day, get out of the sun, get into some air conditioning, and kind of just reset. That is really what it's about, right? You're resetting, you're cooling down. You're not even just cooling your body down, you're cooling your mind down, you're resetting, and then you can go back into the park and enjoy the rest of your day. Another thing that I highly recommend doing in the summertime is getting the Lightning Lane multi-passes. Now, this is because when it is super hot, the last thing you want to do is stand in lines, especially if they're outside. It tends to get busier during the summer. A lot of people do go during the summer, even though they say it's less crowded. I think it's less crowded in August, but June, July, it can still be pretty crowded. So you can still find a lot of lines, and you don't want to be stuck in an outside line in over 100-degree weather with humidity. So it is definitely recommended to get those Lightning Lane multi-passes so you don't have to wait in line. And that also goes along with taking that midday break. If you take 2 or 3 hours out of your day, you might feel like you're going to be missing out on a lot of things. So the Lightning Lane multi-pass allows you to quickly get to the rides that you really want to get to and not have to worry about that break, right? So you can have all of your multi-pass lines in the morning, take your break, and then have all your multi-passes in the afternoon. So that I highly recommend doing the Lightning Lane multi-pass because it's going to save you time and is also going to prevent you from standing out in those lines. Now, sometimes a line in the inside might not be a terrible thing. So, if you see a ride that's an indoor ride and, it's a short line, there's no line waiting outside, you might want to just hop in that line. If it's only like 20 minutes or something, go into that line so you can get out of the sun. But if there's some rides that are outside and you don't want to wait in those lines in the heat, that's when you can use your Lightning Lane multi-pass. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope if you are going to Disney World during the summer, some of these items will help you out. If you have something that you like to bring with you that I didn't mention, definitely leave it in the comments. I'm always trying to find new things that work for people. So if you have something that you didn't see here, definitely drop it down. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time.